The Bucks make it 12 straight wins, beating the Chicago Bulls on the road in the last game before the All-Star break. But maybe it came at a little bit of a cost, a scary moment when Giannis left the game early with a right wrist injury. We do have a little bit of an update from the post-game, so we're going to obviously talk about Giannis to start this show. But then we've got to show some love to the big fella, Brook Lopez, and the little fella, Jevon Carter, who was just ridiculous out there on the offensive end. So the Bucks win again. We love that leading into the All-Star break.
You are Locked On Bucks, your daily Milwaukee Bucks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Bucks. My name is Kane Pittman. You can see and hear me on this show Monday to Friday, and also find my work over at ESPN. And alongside me, the founder of brewhoop.com and longtime voice of the podcast, Frank Madden, for today's show that is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. And we thank everyone for making Locked On Bucks your first watch or first listen of every day. And maybe you're tuning into this show or listening to this show with a little bit of anxiety after Giannis went down and exited this game early with a right wrist injury, an awkward fall into the basket stanchion. That is obviously the big story out of this game. But we thank everyone anyway for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe, hit like, turn notifications on, and make sure you comment in the YouTube. That helps us as well. And you guys are starting to argue with each other now in the YouTube comments. That's what we love to see. A bit of the fans getting together and interacting, Frank. But this game, the Bucks win pretty comfortably in the end, 112-100. But that's not Barry, the big story. Giannis only plays 9 minutes and exits early with this wrist injury.
Well, I mean, the last time a Buck had a wrist injury, I mean, Chris Middleton only missed 6 months, right? So how bad can it be?
I'm not laughing. I'm not laughing.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, all we've heard in the post game was an indication that the X-ray was clean, quote unquote clean, and I think Bud referred to there was some hopeful thinking after the examination. So, I mean, who knows, right? I think the with the X-ray stuff, I mean, they can do that in buildings now, in the arenas now. So if they hadn't told us that, it obviously would have been very concerning. But could there be ligament damage, or I don't know. That's really, I think, probably the concern at this point. And so, yeah, I mean, we don't know, right? I think timing wise, it couldn't come at a better time in terms of, this coming right before the All-Star break. And obviously Giannis has spoken about how he wants to really appreciate every chance to play in the All-Star game and kind of take advantage of that honor and create some memories in these All-Star games. He's got the skills challenge with his brothers as well. That was planned for Saturday night. Presumably all that's out the window now. I don't know. It didn't seem like, I don't think we've ever seen Giannis come out of a game with a hand wrist injury before. It's usually always been like ankle injuries, turns his ankle, and then we've had a few instances where he's had to come out of a game for that. But yeah, so I don't know, but he's got, 8 days before the Bucks next play a game. So hopefully that is a nice little break for him to recharge. And honestly, if he doesn't play in the All-Star game at this point, like that, I'm fine with that, just given the knee and kind of all the other stuff that, he deals with over the course of a season, even absent this new injury. If he was just going to sit out the All-Star game, for no good reason, I'd say, hey, great, totally fine. Just recharge your batteries a little bit. But anyway, so hopefully it's just a minor thing, and by next week he'll be ready to go and back in the lineup as the Bucks look to extend the winning streak to 13 in a week. But until we hear something a bit more conclusive about no structural damage and that he just needs to give it a few days off, I will be checking Twitter somewhat nervously until that happens.
Yeah, a couple of quick other things when it stands to this injury or comes to this injury. When he first went down, because the camera angle wasn't perfect, and he sort of hunched over, and because he's holding his hand and like it's around the knee area, I was like, oh my goodness, how did he land on his knee? I was thinking, is this another knee injury? And then you see it's the hand. And we've seen him quite a few times where he gets his hand caught on the rim or in someone's jersey, shorts, whatever. And to this point, he's been able to avoid anything serious, but you see him often holding his hand and trying to shake that off. So hopefully it's nothing major. I don't really read anything into, as you pointed to, they check the x-rays, but I don't know. I mean, it's impossible to say. But if they're playing a playoff game or a team where it's more competitive or the game means something, does he come back and play? I don't know. I mean, he's proven to us that he can play through stuff, and maybe he would have done so. But leading into the All-Star break, it did not make a lot of sense. But it's kind of funny because I totally agree with you. Under normal circumstances, I would sit back and say, yeah, I don't want him to play. But now it's kind of this weird scenario where it's like, Giannis, is going to push to play. The team will try and hold him back. But if you see him doing stuff at All-Star break, it will almost be like a relief. Like, oh, he's fine. He's going to be fine. He's at this All-Star weekend. And I'm sure, even though I've got very little interest in the skills challenge and how the family goes on the big stage of All-Star Saturday night or whenever they do that, I'm sure it means a hell of a lot to Giannis to be out there with his brothers on the floor. So I'm sure that he'll be pushing to be there. And hopefully the further scans that I'm sure they have to do come up clean, and we'll go from there. What's going on, Frank? What is that?
There's laundry. There's laundry going here. So, there's things drying. But yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting. I'm going back basically exactly a year ago. February 11th, you guys might remember Bucks were in Phoenix and Pat Connaughton hurt his hand, right? And he ended up fracturing the fourth metacarpal in his right hand. Interestingly, it looks like the Bucks actually tweeted out that it was a fourth metacarpal fracture the night of the game. So like literally you did not have to wait even till the next day to get the news that he had fractured his hand. Which again speaks to just the speed with which NBA teams can at least do x-rays and determine if there's, a break of some sort. So again, hopefully we can rule that out. It was interesting. I don't know if you saw it, but they had a quick shot of him where he was, I think it was when he was in the tunnel and he was like kind of showing his hand to Thanasis or something. And he was kind of like gesturing like this kind of, I don't know if you guys can see me doing this, but I thought he was doing like kind of this. So it was almost like between his like his thumb and his finger. So it's kind of like, was that even his wrist really, or was it like his hand or something? I don't know. So I think I don't know. When I saw him doing that, I was kind of like, well, hopefully it's not like a thumb ligament or something like that. But again, we're just guessing at this point, and we've seen it so many times before. No more obvious example of it than against the Hawks, where it looks like he's torn his leg to shreds, and a day later, 2 days, however long it took an eternity. It felt like we hear no structural damage, and whatever it was, a week later, he's playing in the NBA Finals. So we've been spoiled with Giannis just being this superhuman bionic guy that just seemingly is impossible to hurt the same way that normal humans get hurt. So yeah, you just cross your fingers and hope that this is just another example where it's going to be a minor thing that he can rest up over the break, and if not, be back next Friday, hopefully not long after.
Absolutely. And as we said, I'm pretty sure Bucks fans will still just wait for some sort of update. And yeah, I mean, the Bucks, sometimes you don't expect you're getting an update from the Bucks. So at least we got the x-rays are clean. That is a positive sign, as you pointed to. Wasn't the only Buck who didn't play much in this game, or didn't play at all. Chris Middleton with the knee soreness. Maybe they're just taking care of them. I'm not sure if there's anything to worry about there. Pat Connaughton with the calf. Obviously, Bobby Portis was out, and Jay Crowder still to come back. So they were shorthanded in this game, which means that there was opportunities for other guys to step up. Brook Lopez was awesome. Jevon Carter was awesome. So we'll talk about this game a little bit after we talk about our new friends from Nissan, Frank.
Nissan.
Okay. Nissan. It feels very unnatural for me to say Nissan. Nissan, also a fantastic brand here in Australia, and we just say Nissan. I'm happy for some representatives from the company to reach out and let me know that it is Nissan across the board. Nissan in Australia, but I'm happy to say Nissan, which brings us to our Nissan Most Electric Player of the Week, which is brought to you by the all-new, all-electric 2023 Nissan Ariya. And the Nissan Ariya is a fantastic vehicle, but the Most Electric Player of the Week is Drew Holiday for his 40-point performance against the Boston Celtics. And much like the Nissan Ariya, there is duality to the way that Drew Holiday plays the game, and there is duality to the way that Nissan Aria performs on the road as well. Brilliantly fierce, fiercely elegant, stunningly powerful, elegantly powerful as well, and it delivers on the duality, the combination of fierceness and elegance. Beautiful, but strong. The perfect SUV crossover. And Drew Holiday, as we know, he gets it done on the defensive side of the ball, the offensive side of the ball. The 40-point performance was absolutely unbelievable. The 2023 Nissan Aria packs pin you to your seat power and premium intelligence all in one EV. The all-new, all-electric 2023 Nissan Aria. The EV for people who love to drive. Shop now at nissanusa.com. All right, Frank, that's one of my great performances when it comes to ad reads. There's no doubt about that. But the Bucks did beat the Bulls 112-100 in this game. Do you want to start with Brook Lopez and his 33.7 rebounds, 2 assists, 4 block performance? Or do you want to start with Jevon Carter, who came into the lineup and has scored 22 points to go 6 rebounds, 6 assists? And sometimes I've questioned his ability to score in the half court and facilitate, but he was pulling ridiculous passes out from all over the place, and he was scoring off the dribble. Poor old Dalen Terry, who came into the lineup and got some good minutes, and shout out to the Rook, but he was clapping in Jevon Carter's face and getting immediately scorched every single time he tried to take the challenge. So where do you want to start with, Jevon Carter or Brook Lopez? Because they were the 2 stars of the game.
Well, first I want to start with Nissan, because as you were doing that ad read, I literally just looked up on YouTube how to pronounce Nissan,
Yes.
and I think the Americans are, as always, right, Kane. So sorry.
I'm not surprised you would say that. I mean, that is as American as it gets.
No, it was this Japanese. It was this like how to pronounce Japanese like car brands in English thing. So
you want to start Nutella? You want to start the Nutella contest?
I mean,
conversation again.
Nar, to put it in Australian terms. If I say no with like 3 syllables, do you understand it? Nar. Anyway,
I mean, it's just disgraceful. I'm under siege. After what I thought was my best ad read in the history of ad reads.
Now we got to start with Brook Lopez.
Yes,
he set the tone tonight. But even before Giannis got hurt, Giannis was kind of in like dishing mode. And Brook scored 15 points in the first quarter, knocked down a couple threes, and had it going to the basket. I mean, he had a beautiful like pump fake from the 3-point line, drive all the way in for a dunk that I think Brian Anderson was like talking about something else, or there was something going on with the TNT broadcast. So like they barely even like acknowledged it. It's like, come on, that was freaking really impressive from Brook Lopez. Show the dude some love. But yeah, I mean, this has been, such a huge boost for the Bucks that we've seen it. I mean, at least twice in the last week, on the road trip, particularly in that Clippers game, he comes out. Portland game, he, did similar things. Like he just has these nights where it's like, oh, you know what? Drew Holiday isn't cooking. Giannis isn't cooking. / for some period tonight, you lose him entirely. No Chris Middleton, and again, it's like once a week. It feels like Brook Lopez can just have these games where it's just like, oh no, that's an all-star caliber scorer and a guy that can give you 25 points on any random night, and did it again tonight. Even then, and then some with 33. And I mean, it's just such a luxury to have a guy who's capable of doing that, and then to also be able to do it defensively was huge, right? I mean, just some of the rim protection moments that he had in this game. So yeah, I think this was absolutely the Brook Lopez game. 33 points plus 28 in 33 minutes, 4 blocks. He was fairly subdued in the game on Tuesday. Had the foul trouble against the Celtics. And honestly, like the game was not really trending his way anyway. There was very little Robert Williams, which, from a Boston matchup perspective is really crucial to allowing Brook to kind of do his Brook stuff and hang back and block shots. But when the Celtics are playing small, there was no Horford in this game either. And they're playing kind of 5 out essentially. Obviously that limits some of what Brook can do defensively. So, again, there's going to be nights like that with Brook. There will be nights when you don't want to close the game with Brook necessarily due to matchups. But tonight, they absolutely needed him because of the absences, most notably, obviously, Giannis, but also Bobby Portis. So they needed him to come through. And, man, I mean, he really carried them, especially through those 3 quarters, and gave the Bucks, I mean, it was a pretty comfortable night in most respects. It was interesting. I mean, it didn't really become a blowout until late. But Brook kind of was always there to make sure that, it got to a double-digit lead early and kind of always stayed around that, right? It felt like it was like 8 to 12 points for most of this game. And, again, just the ease with which Brook gets to his spots and the touch that he has. He's just such a unique player. And I mean, the year of Brook Lopez continues. I tweeted it out after the game. If Giannis is gonna miss the All-Star game, come on, Adam Silver, do the right thing. Send Brook Lopez. I don't care. Maybe Brook doesn't even want to go because he's got, the 15th closing of Splash Mountain he has to attend to, right? Like maybe he's going to like Euro Disney because they're closing Splash Mountain there now or something. But yeah, shout out to Brook Lopez. He was awesome, and he's been such a constant for the Bucks night in and night out with injuries. Chris Middleton in and out of the lineup. Giannis obviously has not had the same level of injuries that Chris has, but Bobby Portis now being out a while, and the two constants for the most part have been Jrue Holiday and Brook Lopez, and tonight just a nice little reminder going to the All-Star break, just how much he's meant to them, and again, just how monstrous he can be on any given night.
Yeah, I want Brook Lopez to go to the All-Star game to get the recognition, and also I just think he'll be hilarious and there'll be great content. But also, he is a guy that probably deserves a rest as well. Do you know what the funny thing is? There was a great story on the TNT broadcast. The guy that was doing sidelines, I believe his name is Duval, perhaps. I'm not totally familiar.
Kareem Nebal, was it Nebal? I'd never seen him before, but
I'm calling him Duval. Anyway, he did a great
job. I could be totally butchering it.
Yeah, he did a great job anyway. I will say that. We'll see a bit more of him. I'm certain of that. But he had this great story.
Nabil Kareem. Sorry, we got it backwards. Nabil Kareem. There we go.
I was calling him Duval, so I don't know what the hell I'm on about. But anyway, he did a great job is the main point. And he had a nice little story there during the game about Brook Lopez and his back. And obviously we know this has been hurting him for a very long time, to the point where he is managing it so well right now that he doesn't want to sit up straight. So when they fly, he lays down for the flights, which is just funny to think about. And he didn't even get on the team bus to Chicago. He got his own driver to drive him there. So I guess like a limo or something, so he could lay down for the drive to Chicago. I mean, he is a humongous man. And like when you see, like all basketball players are big to me. I'm a very average sized human, but he is like next level in terms of just how wide he is. And so that is just a hilarious thought about him laying down on the plane and in the car and those types of things. And it does, it's just interesting to hear how much the back has bothered him since all the way back in college, got the surgery, and he's only missed one game to this point. So take the rest. Although, as we've said this before, Frank, you can't tell me for a man that goes to that length to lay down in the car on the way to the game, not go on the team bus. You can't tell me riding Splash Mountain 74 times in a row in one day is good for the back. It can't be. Maybe
that's why he has to lay down on the plane and not take buses, because he's managing his load so that he can go and do Splash Mountain and cram his 7-foot frame into a tiny little roller coaster ride. So hey, as long as he's continuing to play at this level, I'm not going to question what Brook is doing in his spare time. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe skip the teacups at Disney World next time. I think let's or Disney. I mean, Disney. You guys get so much free advertising off of Brook Lopez talking about his love of Disney. Like, can we get like a special Splash Mountain or whatever? Like, put some jumbo sized little cars in the back of these rides so that you can fit a couple of Lopez brothers comfortably in here, or just like a recline thing, like maybe something long enough that he can just lay down in, right? If just to keep the theme going, like how do we get Brook Lopez being able to lay down on most Disney rides? That's really the thing that the people at the Worldwide Leader need to figure out. Your employers, Kane. What am I even talking about? Like Disney? It's like you got an ESPN guy here with me, so I know you've got a direct line to Bob Iger, so put in the good word.
I certainly will. I did believe we got a team email or something. I better get on to Bobby and let him know to look after our man, Brook. Well, we're going to look after our listeners right now. They still got Jevon Carter. By the way, we have to show some love to AJ Green as well. So we're still going to break down this game against the Bulls. More to come. It is sizzling hot outside here in Melbourne. if I'm stuttering, it's heat. The heat has got to me. It's 104 degrees over here. It is absolutely sizzling, almost as sizzling as AJ Green tonight on the floor, mind you. But the only thing that can get me through the day, because I'm just the energy is sapped. It is Built Bar. And if you're looking for a delicious treat and don't want all the fat and calories, then you got to try a Built Bar. We got through the holidays a couple of months ago. I've spoken about this. You try and start the year eating healthy, maybe doing exercise. But let's be honest, eating healthy ain't all that fun. But it is if you're with Built Bar, because it is healthy for you, but it also tastes delicious. They're covered in 100% real chocolate. There's only 130 calories, so you don't need to feel guilty about that. 4 grams of sugar, plus you get a 17-gram protein hit as well. So it's pretty damn nice. And the good news is, with all the flavors that you know and love, you can get it now at Walmart or Sam's Club as well. So you can go to built.com if you're a loyalist to the World Wide Web. But if you want to go to Walmart or Sam's Club, feel free to do that and pick yourself up a $13 to chuck in the car and eat on the way home. So if you're close to either Walmart or Sam's Club, get in there, get a cookies and cream, a double chocolate, perhaps some coconut puffs. But if not, go to built.com and check out the full range. It is absolutely delicious. Oh, I said Jevon Carter or AJ Green. We've got to mention that stat line. AJ Green just comes in and knocks down 5 threes in 23 minutes, which was pretty superb, because overall, when you do lose Middleton, or Middleton's not playing, you lose Giannis, you say, all right, hopefully the Bucks can shoot the ball well from 3. And they did for the most part throughout this game, 18 for 47, 38%. You'll take that every night of the week. But you know you're going to lose some free throws. I saw some stat. This might be the first game Giannis didn't attempt a free throw in the Bud era. Now, we understand why, but only played 9 minutes. But that's a pretty easy source of offense and scoring for this Bucks team. So Carter and Green, vitally important with some shooting in this game.
Yeah, I mean, a weird game for Jevon, right? He scored, did I hear correctly? He scored 11 in the first quarter,
Yeah.
Nothing in the middle 2 quarters, and then he scores 11 in the fourth quarter. And then, I mean, the fourth quarter, it was like, heat check Jevon Carter time. I mean, he was hitting some, off the dribble 2-point shots that were really impressive. He had like a running banker. I mean, at this point, honestly, the game was out of reach. Like, this was Jevon Carter kind of feeling himself at that point. So, but yeah, I mean, he's such a weird offensive player, because he gets into these rhythms where he's really, just feeling himself on mid-rangers. Obviously, the 3-point shooting has been very good this year. He's been around 40% for so much of the year. The pull-up threes in transition, I don't think we saw any pull-up threes in transition tonight, but he does get into these rhythms where, even though he can't get to the rim at all, he's just gets on just a jump shooting heater, and he's able to give you a nice little boost. So, and probably honestly, the thing that surprised me almost as much was 6 assists. I mean, there was one play where he attacked the basket, got to the paint, and fed Brook for a dunk, which, like, Jevon Carter doesn't do that. Like, he does not set people up for dunks. Like, he just is not a good passer. Like, he just doesn't have that kind of like vision to his game. When he is getting a screen, right? Like, maybe he'll sometimes like kick it out on a pick and pop, but for the most part, like, he's getting a screen, like he's shooting, like he's not setting other dudes up. So for him to not only give you 22 points on 13 shots, but also the 6 assists, 6 rebounds. I mean, again, on a game where Drew Holiday was hit his first 3, but then was pretty kind of not. Let's just say this. Let's just say it was a bit of a mean reversion game after his incredible performance on Tuesday. Can't expect Drew to give you 40 points every night. But yeah, and this felt, we talk about sort of the infrastructure wins. This felt like an infrastructure win, because guys were out. Drew Holiday, maybe not his best game, and Brook Lopez decides, okay, you know what? I'll just have my best offensive game of the season. Jevon Carter says, you know what? I'm just going to start hitting all sorts of jump shots. And AJ Green, who, again, like, I've complained plenty about AJ Green when he was randomly playing ahead of Marjon Beauchamp. Well, tonight looked like Marjon Beauchamp had, emotionally already started his All-Star break. I tweeted that his body was in Chicago, but his soul, I think, had boarded a Spirit Airlines flight to Cancun. He just kind of, I don't know what was going on. He just kind of looked out of it. 0 for 3 from the field for him. I think he eventually hit a free throw maybe, but he was not good. But AJ Green, I mean, the greatest compliment I can pay AJ Green is when he takes a jump shot, I'm expecting it to go in, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's just been a guy who has done a really nice job of just sort of being ready all season long. Doesn't play for 2 weeks, has an opportunity, you expect he's going to make a jump shot. And again, he's limited in other ways. But I thought even tonight, I thought defensively actually kind of battled pretty well, even in situations where he was kind of certainly mismatched against, people like Zach LaVine and whatever. Like, I mean, the guy, he's smart, he's smart enough to at least give himself a vague chance defensively. And again, you don't expect him to do well when he's on an island for an extended period, but he competes. Again, he's the son of a coach. Did you know that, Kane? Aren't you shocked to hear that AJ Green is the son of a coach? He's like the most stereotypical son of a coach guy that you could find. Although I do find it interesting that he shoots and has that high release the way he does, because I feel like shooting coach, you would not teach a guy to shoot that way, but it's obviously extremely effective for him. And because the release is so high, it's, pretty easy for him to get off even when people are around him. So yeah, I mean, again, just the way that he was able to just come in and just, be that pressure release valve, especially on a night when you were missing so many guys, especially, really your so many of your key offensive engine guys. Yeah, they needed that shot in the arm from him. And, again, for a two-way guy to be able to kind of come in and give you some of that boost was a really, really nice thing. And, Mamu 0 for 4 was competing, got a couple offensive rebounds, a couple blocks and a steal for Mamu.
A couple of nice blocks.
Yeah. I gotta say it's been disappointing. It feels like Mamu's like, I'm actually kind of curious where his 3-point shooting numbers are here, but it feels like it's been quite a while since he hit a three. Yeah, he's only shooting 25% from three this year. Last year he was quite good. And obviously it was, actually played a fair bit last year, but this year 35% from the field, 25% from three. So yeah, the shooting just has not been there. And he just obviously, when he's had his rare opportunities, hasn't really been able to kind of show what he can do. But obviously tonight you kind of got enough from enough dudes. And I mean, would have, again, would have been not shocking to lose this game given the context, but to come out and, hit 18 out of 47 threes and shake off, losing Giannis, not having Chris, Drew not having a great night. Again, 5 of 15 from the field, did have 9 assists and only 1 turnover. But yeah, just a luxury to have a team like this where you've got so many guys that on any given night can step up and make shots.
No question about it. And if it wasn't for the injury, it would have been pretty fun because the Bucks have now won 12. And we should mention, by the way, Giannis, I know he didn't get to play much tonight, but he is now also the franchise leader for assists as well. So, look, we understand this, but very, very soon he is just going to be leading every single category in the franchise list. I think he's actually only about 8 or 9 games behind the leader for just actual games played as well, which is just kind of crazy to think about, that nobody would have been in a Milwaukee Bucks uniform more than Giannis as well, which we love it. We love seeing all these records tumble. And yeah, you said he was in assist, mate. Maybe you wanted to get the record out of the way nice and early here. Make sure you check out the Locked On Game to Game podcast for everything going on around the NBA tonight. I gave a little update on the Giannis stuff. I know everyone's caught up to that, but that's the way that show goes. Game to Game, get it on your Locked On NBA feed, wherever you get your podcasts. Or, of course, on YouTube as well. Frank, excitement levels for the All-Star break? Or the All-Star weekend activities, I should say?
Pretty much zero, especially now that I know Giannis is all but certain not to be playing in the All-Star game. The only downside is, and this is a weird thing, is obviously I'm thrilled that Drew Holiday is in the All-Star game. Now
he's going to get picked last? Giannis will still pick.
I mean, I'm sure Giannis will actually draft the team, but I just now it's well, I guess should I watch the All-Star game because Drew is playing? With no Giannis, I'm kind of tempted to just not even bother watching the game. Although, I do enjoy the Elam ending. So that in of itself, maybe just tune in for the fourth quarter. But yeah, I don't know, the dunk contest. I feel like it's been touch and go whether or not I actually watch the 3-point shootout and the dunk contest. So I am not very interested in All-Star weekend this year. Hopefully Giannis can still coach the celebrity game with a bum hand. My guess is he will be able to do that. And why don't you say who would be the funniest player to have sub in for Giannis in the skills challenge with his brothers Thanasis and Alex. If you could pick any player to sub
In the league?
in the league, yeah.
Jeez, I don't know. What are you thinking? Have you got someone in mind?
Well, I was just thinking like pick a end of the bench Bucks player, like Mamu is actually going to be there. He's apparently in the G League, like Rising Stars game. So, I mean, that nothing would supercharge TNT's ratings for All-Star Saturday night than to throw Mamu in with Alex
I'm saying put
Thanasis
Mum in.
Antetokounmpo.
Not
Who?
Mamu, Mum.
Mom,
The mother.
Veronica
Yeah.
Antetokounmpo.
Get her in.
Yeah, can she, throw a basketball through a little hole for the assist thing? Throw a bounce pass through there.
Absolutely.
We'll see. Put her on TV. No, but I don't really care that much about All-Star Weekend, and especially if Giannis was in it, I would definitely watch the game. But I mean, I'd be kind of shocked given what we just saw if he was able to play. So I'm solely concerned with just hopefully it being a short-term thing, because again, I mean, you're 41-17. Boston's only 42-17. Again, it would stink to lose Giannis for any extended period, because you actually, if you stay healthy, I mean, you have a decent chance to actually potentially even claim the 1 seed, which I don't think either of us were expecting that. I'm still wouldn't bet on it, but you've got only 24 games left in the season. You still have one more game against Boston, and it's at home in Milwaukee. So yeah, we'll kind of see what happens. By the way, I will say this is one thing I know we talked about. I only comment on the Tuesday game. It's always like the cliche of like, well, it's sometimes harder playing against teams when they don't have their like stars or whatever, which of course, like, Bucks should have won that game by a lot more. There's no excuse for kind of the difficulty that they created for themselves in that game. But it was interesting. I have not seen the Bucks that disorganized defensively. Like, they literally like just did not seem to be prepared for the personnel that was on the floor, and probably because like there was no tape for a lot of those lineups, because like Muscala is brand new, and so many obviously the guys were pressed into larger roles than you would have expected. But I thought Boston just tons of off-ball movement, tons of screening on the ball, off the ball, and it just felt like the Bucks were like constantly like not sure if they were switching, not switching. And I don't know. It was just surprising kind of how chaotic it was, which again, I would not expect to see, if Boston was closer to full strength. So yeah, I don't know. It's been a weird year in the sense that like I just expect the Bucks to win every close game, and they kind of have won every close game. And it's funny. I don't know, just rewinding the clock to a couple of years ago, right? I mean, just thinking before the Bucks won a title, it'd be like, oh, like who do they have that go-to guys in crunch time? Like Giannis isn't really like a typical like, first option in crunch time periods. And Chris Middleton, you're really like Chris Middleton's going to be the guy handling the ball, all that. And then you look what happens, and basically they won every close game en route to winning an NBA title, including beating the Phoenix Suns, who had sort of the ultimate closers theoretically in Chris Paul and Devin Booker. And I don't know, the last couple of years, just in general, they're just a team that, especially with the three weapons that we always talk about, and the defense that they can dial up, especially when games get close, and the switching they can do when they need to, or they can stay big with Brook. They've just become a very reliably good sort of team in these close situations. And obviously that you're going to need that. You're going to need a little bit of luck as well to do that stuff in the playoffs. But yeah, let's just say I was glad to be spared of a close game tonight. Nice that the Bucks did us that favor and gave us a bit of an easier win heading into the All-Star break.
Yep, 24 games to go when they come back. And if they go 500, they're going to be around that win total that we discussed, around the 53 win mark, which is just hilarious to think about. They're in the mix for the first seed, which could mean stuff if they get to a series with the Celtics. It could be all important if you do eventually get to a game 7. So we'll be back. Frank might not be watching the All-Star break, but don't worry. We're going to be podcasting, so do not think that there'll be no Locked On Bucks. So make sure you subscribe, have the notifications on, jump in, drop a comment on the show today, or hit me up on Twitter as well. You can always do that and get involved. We appreciate it. We'll be back very soon. Not sure when we're podcasting yet, but we're going to get back into the buyout stuff, the roster stuff. There's more stuff to talk about before we head to the All-Star weekend. And then, of course, the road to the postseason.